Aung San Suu Kyi has gone from heroine to villain without changing much. The committee that awarded the Nobel Peace Prize to Aung San Suu Kyi in 1991 described her as an important symbol in the struggle against genocide, in the struggle against oppression, and an inspiration to those striving to attain democracy, human rights, and ethnic conciliation by peaceful means. But to the crowd of protesters outside who gathered outside the International Court of Justice, ICJ, in The Hague this week, she's just the opposite. An apologist for the military brutality, an oppressor of ethnic minorities, and a better of the genocide. Aung San Suu Kyi, shame on you, they chanted, as her motorcade glided past, windows tinted. The cheers and boos rose in a crescendo. Ms. Suu Kyi, who since 2016 has been Myanmar's president in all but name, was at the ICJ to defend her country against the charges of genocide brought by Gambia on behalf of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, a group of Muslim countries. The case concerns the Rohingyas, a Muslim minority group that has suffered varying degrees of persecution since Myanmar's independence in 1948. In 2017, the Burmese army went on the rampage in the Rohingya areas in the far west of the country in response to attacks on military posts by a small Rohingya guerrilla group. The court heard horrifying descriptions of mass shootings, throat slittings, with babies thrown into burning houses and women gang raped or stabbed in the vagina. Listen to the accounts. She said, poised and calm, with fresh flower in the air, just as there always had been in her decades, doggedly opposing military rule. That a woman who was herself locked up by the Burmese army for 15 years would travel halfway around the world to defend it has astonished many. In a certain sense, her battle with generals continues. Despite having the civilian government, she's not in charge of them. The constitution they put in place before allowing democratic elections to be held in 2015 makes the army a law unto itself and awards a quarter of the seats in parliament, enough to veto any constitutional amendments. Many of Ms. Suu Kyi's admirers had attempted to exonerate her of the pogrom against the Rohingyas, saying she was powerless to prevent it and would only have made herself look weak by railing helplessly against it. Ms. Suu Kyi's trip to The Hague has put paid to the argument. It is one thing to maintain a pragmatic, if reprehensible, silence, quite another to come slowly to the army's defense. Ms. Suu Kyi could, after all, have sent a draft functionary to present Myanmar's case. Instead, she loudly advertised her trip, knowing full well that few Burmese have any sympathy for the Rangers, who they see wrongly as illegal immigrants from Bangladesh who threaten the buddhist character of the nation. Rallies have been held across Myanmar, hailing her as a dauntless defender of national pride. It is hard to escape the conclusion that she is exploiting the Rohingyas' miseries to boost her prospects in elections due 2020. When the moment came for Ms. Suu Kyi to make her case, she was oddly muted. She disappointed those who had hoped she would reveal herself once and for all to be an unapologetic villain by denying that the Rohingyas had suffered any abuses as some in her government have claimed, but she also failed to admit the scale of atrocities and the army's leading role in them. Instead, she argued that the burning of the houses and the flight of almost 1 million Rohingyas to neighboring Bangladesh should be seen as unfortunate side effects of the army's ongoing war with various guerrilla groups. Where there was clear evidence of wrongdoing by the armies, she claimed the authorities were attempting to bring those responsible to book. Although she also hinted at the government's lack of influence over martial justice, over military justice. Nonetheless, the fact that many courts martial were being held at all, she claimed, proved that the government did not intend to commit genocide. It's neither a ringing defense of the army nor any sort of admission of guilt. The ambiguity probably reflects the true Suki. She's clearly a nationalist, unhappy to see her country excoriated. She obviously wishes its institution worked better, but is not ready to countenance outside interference to compensate for their deficiencies. She's not a full-throated apologist for the army, but does not trust anyone else to take on the top brass. The same stubborn self-belief that helped deliver Myanmar from military rule, in other words, is now standing in the way of justice for some of its most vulnerable inhabitants.